Thank you, Lloyd. There is nothing that comes close to the stark terror that a parent feels when a child disappears. If you've been in a mall or perhaps at a ball game and one of your children disappears, you know what it feels like to not be able to find them. How many of you have had that experience where oh, there we go. Wow. Dr. Jesse Wilson tells the story of when his son disappeared from their yard one day. This is the story as he tells it in his words. My wife and I ran from door to door, desperate to find our son. As time slipped away, I began bargaining with God. If you bring back my son, I'll eat right. I'll not lose my temper. I'll be a better husband. I was frantically bargaining and begging God. I still was telling God I would stop doing things that I hadn't even started doing yet. After what seemed like an eternity, we got a phone call from my mother-in-law, who lived a few miles away. It seemed that our son had gotten tired of riding his bike, and as he headed for home, a huge dog was in his way. So he turned around and headed to the safety of Grandma's house. That's very logical, right? When my mother-in-law brought him to our house, I was an emotional wreck. I didn't know whether to laugh or to cry, whether to hug him or to hurt him. At that moment, God chose to have a conversation with me. It was as if he said to me, do you see how distraught you were when your son was lost? I have children all over the world who are lost. And if you would have just a fraction of the passion for my children that you had for your son who was lost, you would be a powerful preacher. Dr. Wilson never forgot that impression, and neither should we. A few weeks ago, Elder Joel Sutherland spoke here at our church. Do you remember what he said all of us were? He may have shocked some of you by saying that our pastor is not a minister. If he's not the minister, who are? We are, aren't we? We are the ministers. Every Christian has their very own congregation, their very own mission field that they are to work in. As gifted as Pastor Marius is, he'll never be able to impact people that God has put in your territory. Where God has planted your life, you in life, there's a regular group of people that you can impact. That's your congregation, your mission field. We should never forget that it is far too great a risk to leave our friends and loved ones to somebody else to save. There are people who will not respond to the pastor, to the Bible worker, but they will respond to you. Remember, the people that we know who are not saved are lost. When we take the time to cultivate relationships with people that we meet and meet their needs, it grants us access to their hearts. You know, God designed a remarkable distribution system for the gospel. Like the gospel itself, it is a simple solution for a complex problem. What's the plan? Well, he could have used angels. They already had experience in being messengers and suppliers. Or he could have shocked the world by using unusual things like rocks and trees or animals. But instead, he knew that from personal experience what would be successful. God knew that if you want to guarantee that good news gets to your family, you don't send it to them, you take it to them. Christ did just that for us, and he wants us to do that for the lost people, his lost children. We are the distribution system that Christ designed. All of us, every one of us, you and me. He allows us to share so that we can grow. Did you know that we must become fishers of men to reach our full spiritual potential? Jesus makes the same call to his disciples today that he made to Peter and Andrew centuries ago. Follow me, and I will make you fishers of men. When he prepared to leave the earth, Christ left his followers with a similar charge. And ye shall be my witnesses in Jerusalem, in Judea, in Samaria, and to the uttermost parts of the world. It's clear that Christ had everyone in mind when he designed his distribution plan. However, today, most Christians feel that it's the job of the pastor to spread the message. They may not say it with their mouths, but their lives do say it. How does that affect the church? Listen to what one of my favorite authors said about it. The very life of the church depends upon her faithfulness in fulfilling the Lord's commission. To neglect this work is to invite spiritual feebleness and decay. I don't think anybody we don't want to be in that position, do we? Where there is no active labor for others, love wanes and faith grows dim. That's from the Desire of Ages. We must be intentional if we want to reach those in our personal mission field. We must build relationships with them. And at the same time, God will, when we have those relationships and are with those people, impress us of the moment when it's appropriate that we can say something about our experience with God. You know, too often I've been timid about sharing my faith and about how good a God we have. I've been so focused on not offending people that I fail to say anything to them about Jesus. Don Schneider, who was former president of the North American Division, tells this story. For several years, my wife and I prayed for our next-door neighbors. We made an effort to become friends with them, and we were careful not to offend them in any way. When the time came for us to move away, we stood together by the truck that was loaded with our possessions. And our neighbor said, "You've been good neighbors, and one thing I can say for you is you have never shoved your religion down our throats." He thought it was a compliment. And certainly it was true. We had hardly talked to them about our faith. His comment really bothered me. Many months later, when I came back to town to do some repairs on our house that had not yet sold, I determined to talk to him. With deep and urgent feelings, I told him that I must apologize for not talking to him about what is really important. Then I told him about Jesus, about how much he means to me and how much difference he could make in their lives. He was not offended at all. In fact, he was so impressed that he said, "Come with me in the house. I'm going to wake my wife up so that she can hear your testimony." It was well past midnight when I left their home. I left them standing together with their arms around each other and the Bible that I had shared with them. What a blessing. The most productive evangelists in any congregation are the people that understand the importance of building relationships in their mission field. Christ's attitude and approach to reaching us is found in John 1:14. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. And we beheld his glory, the glory as the only begotten of the Father, full of grace and truth. Christ's model is incarnational. He came and he still comes to us today. Did you know that the term dwelt among us can actually be translated, he pitched his tent among us? He didn't wait for us to move into his neighborhood. He moved to our sin-infested, pain-scarred neighborhood, and he pitched a tent. It's time for us to intentionally build tents in our neighborhoods. The gospel is an ongoing narrative of a God who thought enough of us to come to us. And that's what we must be willing to do if we are to reach our neighbors. We can't wait for them to come to us. We must go to them. And remember, your purpose in reaching out to your congregation is to make friends, not to get baptismal candidates. That may come in time. People can sense if you have an agenda, and they are your target. Instead, just make friends, be with them day by day, and God will give you opportunities to speak a word for Him. And you know, the cool thing is that you don't need to feel the pressure that, oh my, if I say the wrong thing, they might not ever want to hear about God again, or I won't get them to come. No, God Himself makes Himself responsible for the outcome. The Holy Spirit has already been at work in their hearts, and He just invites you to participate. God is concerned less about our ability than He is about our availability. Did you catch that? Less concerned about our ability or all the knowledge we have than our availability to be there at the right time. How does that flesh out in real life, working with our neighborhood or our mission field? What are some things that we can do to make an impact with our neighborhood? When we first moved to Kentucky, Arden noticed that the mailbox across the street needed some attention. He also found out that the person living there was a single woman, and she obviously didn't know how to fix mailboxes. So he took his tools and went over and fixed it. Wow, she was so grateful. And we had many, many interchanges after that because she appreciated what he had done. You know, in our neighborhood, it's not like it used to be in small town America where people would sit on their porches at night and everybody would visit, come by and stop. But people are working in their yards. They are working in their driveways. And we've found that just strolling our neighborhoods gives us opportunity to chat with many people just for a few minutes, but we get to know them and get an experience with them. What works in your neighborhood? There is real ministry in mingling with our congregation, our very own mission field. Mingling is simply making non-religious contact. Mingling is inviting a friend to dinner before you invite them to church. Mingling is talking about the Dallas Cowboys before you talk about the great controversy. Mingling is membership in the local health club along with your membership in the church Sabbath school. Mingling is meeting people where they are so that you can show them where they need to be. Bill Hybels tells the story in Becoming a Contagious Christian of one of his members who was learning the power of mingling. This Willow Creek member was anxious to introduce Christ to his neighbor, so he was always looking for ways to say something, to invite him to the church event. To his credit, he always chose very non-threatening church activities. Finally, he had his big chance. They were putting on a huge Christmas program with live animals, flying angels, and seasonal music. So he was excited. This was his chance. He watched for a time when his neighbor was out, went over and talked to him in his yard, told him about the program, and offered him some free tickets to the program. He was surprised at the neighbor's response. He sheepishly turned down the tickets to the Christmas play, but quickly suggested, why don't we get together and barbecue sometime? The point is that we begin with the barbecue before we begin with the church invitation. We begin with the football game or the golf match or the quilting club before we try to get them to a Bible study. We must learn the ministry of mingling. Our real mission field is where we live, work, and play. And remember, this is critical. All the resources of heaven are at the command of those who are seeking to save the lost. Can you imagine? All the resources of heaven at our command. When we give ourselves wholly to God and in our work, follow His directions, He makes Himself responsible for its accomplishment. He would not have us conjecture as to the success of our honest endeavors. Listen to this. Not once should we even think of failure. We are to cooperate with the one who knows no failure, and that's from Christ Object Lesson. You may still be wondering, how can I know how to go about working in my mission field? I guarantee that if you sincerely want to cooperate with God, to be a light in your mission field, He will give you ideas and open your eyes to needs. Your part is simply to act on His promptings. When we do good things for others, we do good things for God. That's what Jesus taught in Matthew 25, verses 34 to 36. He didn't say, I was lonely and you built a retirement home. I was sick and you worked to get me on health insurance. I was in prison and you picketed the jail. I was thirsty and you gave me spiritual counsel. No, He asks us to do simple things without fanfare, without hoopla, without media. Simple things, doing good things for others is all He asks us to do. Listen to this story of how a young man, seemingly without much to give, made a difference in his mission field. This is a true story told by Barbara Hagele that made the rounds on the internet some years back. This is a story that she tells. A few years ago, I was hired by a large supermarket chain to lead a customer service program to build customer loyalty. During my speech, I said, everyone can make a difference and create memories for your customers that will bring happiness, and they'll remember you. I told them, put your personal signature on the job. Think about something that you can do to make your customers feel special. A memory that will motivate them and make them want to come back. About a month after I had spoken, I received a call from a 19-year-old grocery bagger. He proudly informed me that he was a Down syndrome individual and told me his story. I liked what you talk about, he said, but at first I didn't think there was anything I could do. After all, I'm just a bagger. Then I had an idea, Johnny said. Every night I'd come home and find a thought for the day. If I couldn't find anything I liked, I made one up. When Johnny had a good thought for the day, his dad helped him enter it in the computer and make multiple copies of it. He would cut them out, sign his name on the back, and take them to work the next day. When I finished bagging someone's groceries, he said, I put the thought for the day in the bag and said, thanks for shopping with us. It touched me that this man with a job that most people wouldn't think was very important had made it important by creating personal memories for his customers. A month later, the manager of the supermarket where he worked called me. You wouldn't believe what happened when I was making my rounds today. I found Johnny's line 3 times as long as any other line. It went clear down the frozen food aisle. We need more cashiers, I said. Let's get some more lines open. As I tried to get people to change lines, no one would move. It's okay, they'd say. We want to be in Johnny's line. We want his thought for the day. The store manager continued. It was a joy to watch Johnny delight his customers. It gave me a lump in my throat when a lady came and told me, I used to shop at your store once a week, but now I stop in every time I pass by because I want Johnny's thought for the day. A few months later, the manager called me again. Johnny has transformed our store, he said. Now when the floral department has an unused corsage or extra flowers, they search for an elderly woman or a little girl and pin it on them. Everyone is having fun making special memories for our customers. Our customers are talking about us, the manager said. They're coming back and they're bringing their friends. Johnny's idea wasn't so much innovative as it was loving. It came from his heart. It touched his peers and customers, and the story still touches us today. It's an attitude. Can God give us unique ideas to touch the people in our little mission field? Great service comes from the heart, a heart willing to focus on someone in need, willing to develop an attitude of giving to those around us, to those within our very own mission field. When we do good things for others, we do good things for God. When we sow seeds of kindness, God brings a rich harvest. What about brief contacts with people in stores and businesses that we visit? How can we be God's witnesses there? We'll probably never see those people again. One way is to pass out these little guys, glow tracts that we try to keep stocked out here. I probably pass out at least 4 to 6 of these every week. It took me a while to get myself in the groove to do that. When the cashier gives me my receipt, I say, I have something for you. Thank you so much. There are very few people who do not graciously receive them. In fact, thank me for it. You know, one day when I was in a doctor's office, it just occurred to me, I thought, well, why don't you offer them a choice? So I showed her 2 glow tracts, and I said, which one would you like? She looked at me and she said, can I have both? That led into a conversation where I was able to understand what's going on in her life and bless her. Simple opportunities that we can make. You know, sometimes when we share our faith, when we pass out a few glow tracts, we don't see any results, and so we think, oh, you know, this is crazy. But we don't know what's going to happen to those glow tracts, who God is going to bring just at the right time in the right place to read that. A principle of sharing our faith is that it's good to remember is that it's our job to plant the seed, and it's God's job to make it grow. We may have no idea how the tracts that we have distributed are blessing people and being used by God to touch hearts until we're in the kingdom. So don't get discouraged. Keep spreading the tracts like the leaves of autumn. The more we give out, the higher the likelihood that someone who is searching will get one. So don't worry if you don't see immediate success in what you are doing to reach out. It takes many exposures to the gospel before an unbeliever is nudged closer to having a relationship with Jesus. The harvest is a process, an ongoing process. Souls baptized today were planted and watered yesterday. We may not see the results in our lifetime, but God has promised that His word will not return to Him void. Claim that promise and scatter the seeds. It's also true that the harvest is a team effort. Paul was correct when he noted that some water, some plant, some water, some cultivate. We all have a different part, but we can be there at the right time. It takes all of us, many touches for every person to be reached. God is the master of bringing the right people together in the right place. So, we each have our own mission field. What about the Middletown Seventh-day Adventist Church? Does it also have a mission field? Listen to this story. One of the most tragic days in American history was November 18, 1978. Congressman Leo Ryan and 4 members of his traveling party, along with 408 Americans, died in the jungles of Guyana. They were victims of the deranged preacher Jim Jones, who was leader of the People's Temple. Some were murdered, many more committed suicide, but they were all his victims. Most of the victims had relatives in the San Francisco area because that's where the People's Temple had been before they fled to South America. As you can imagine, the Bay Area was torn with grief. Not many months after the tragedy, Dr. Jesse Wilson was asked to hold an evangelistic series in San Francisco. The sponsoring church was only a few blocks from where the People's Temple was. One day when he was out giving Bible studies, he asked the people, "Where was the People's Temple? Would you show me?" They took him just a few hundred yards down the street to the corner of Fillmore and Gage, and there it stood, boarded and deserted, but it was still an imposing structure. As Dr. Wilson climbed the stairs to the padlocked doors, he saw a hand-painted sign which he will never forget. It read, "We want our church back." He couldn't believe his eyes. Who would long for the return of a church that was pastored by the devil himself? As he worked in the area for the next few weeks, the enigma became clear. Despite the carnage of the Jonestown Massacre, one person after another spoke fondly of the People's Temple that they knew. He discovered how the People's Temple had made an incredible impact in the lives of the people in the community by taking care of the needs. They were known for their youth programs, job placement programs, homeless ministries, multicultural emphasis, and much more. They had literally served their way into the hearts of the people. They were so effective that even the remaining victims of the madman Jim Jones found it hard to completely dismiss him. That devilish church had stumbled into the not-so-secret weapon for outreach that many times we forget: the supernatural power of meeting felt needs. I know we've all heard this quote many times: Christ's method alone will give true success in reaching the people. The Savior mingled with men as one who desired their good. He showed his sympathy for them, ministered to their needs, and won their confidence. Then he bid them, "Follow me." A lot has been written about the fortress model of church and outreach that some members use. Like ancient armies under attack, we dig moats of protection around our sacred cities, and we cry out to the endangered masses, "Get in here before it's too late." Then we lower the drawbridge long enough for them to promise to change and jump in. It's funny, but it's true. And at times, it's necessary. We should be conscious of the sin that has overrun our culture. Everything and everyone is under attack. At times, the answer is to retreat into the safety of a good church and a good family. But like Jesus, we need to absorb the strength and maturity that we gain in the church and take it to the streets. There's a law that applies to outreach, and it's a law that sometimes we also forget. The law that most of us have forgotten is the area of outreach or community service is the law of the harvest. You will reap what you sow. If you sow bountifully, you will reap bountifully. If you sow sparingly, you will reap sparingly, or maybe not at all. You know, God gives a wonderful illustration of that principle in nature. Have you noticed how generous nature is in sowing seeds? Think dandelions. Or if you have a maple tree in your yard, those little seeds with the little tail on them go everywhere. And I guarantee you have had maple trees growing up in the most unusual places. You know, it's much easier to build walls than it is to build bridges. The ones that we have been called to reach can at times be cold and resistant. But that's a sign of how desperate the battle is. Our mandate is to build relationships that lead to Jesus. Love that comes in person is hard to resist. And let's face it, there is always the danger that the world will change us more than we change the world. But that should make us determined to be cautious and prepared and still ready to launch out. You might still say, "I don't have anything to give." Yes, you do. You can give a smile. You can bake someone a loaf of bread or cookies or a pie. You can fix a mailbox. You can mow a lawn. There are many things that we can do that will touch somebody's life. Somebody needs what perhaps only you can give them. I encourage each one of you to be here next weekend and learn about opportunities that we as a church have for serving our community. God gives us each a personal mission field, our friends, family, neighbors, co-workers, and those we come in contact with. But he also has given this body of believers a unique mission field where they are to be his hands and feet. So we have two mission fields, our own and that of our churches. We're all ministers of the gospel. Whether we receive our paychecks from a local school, from a local business, from the government, or maybe we don't get a paycheck at all. We all work for the same person, Jesus Christ. The enemy is not going to cheer when he sees us out tangibly serving God and sharing his love with someone who's lost. He'll create roadblocks and obstacles. That's why the weapon of prayer is so vital. Prepare by prayer and claiming his promises. No matter how simple the adventure that you're heading out on may be, you dare not go alone. When we ask, God has promised to be with us. Pray over these if you happen to pass these out. I pray over them after I have given them to people, that God will bless those people and somehow open their eyes to truths that are in them. So I challenge you in closing, get away by yourself today and think about what you have heard. Process. What is God saying to you personally through these insights? What meaning does this message have for you individually and for God's work? What are the next steps that God wants you to take? God has said that just as surely as there is a place for us in heaven, there's a place for each of us right here on this earth where we are to work for him. Ask God to please show you the next steps and this is important, give you a willing, eager heart to invest your life in the lives of others. Then someday in God's kingdom, he'll show the faces of people who are there because you and he had a wonderful adventure together building bridges right here in his world. God has given us each 2 mission fields, our own and our churches. Let's pitch our tents and go to work.